Most people seem to agree that the Supreme Court is in a bit of a legitimacy crisis, and you can probably fill in for yourself any number of different reasons why that is. Obviously, there's been a lot of focus on SCOTUS after the repeal of Roe v. Wade, but the nomination process has been a mess for a number of years. The high stakes nature of winning the presidency so that you can get justices just in case, timing when they retire or if they might die, the entire thing is a big mess. The thing is, there are multiple plans for how you could reform the SCOTUS so that it could do its job with a little bit less chaos sort of baked into the process. And we're very lucky to be joined on the program today by Congressman Hank Johnson, who has a bill to do that, to reform the SCOTUS. Congressman, welcome to the Damage Report.
Thank you, great to be with you.
It's great to have you here. We've been talking about the need for reform in the SCOTUS for some time on the show. And so tell us a little bit about your bill. How would it change the Supreme Court?
Well, the Supreme Court Tenure, Establishment, and Retirement Modernization Act, also known as the Term Act, would establish an 18-year term limit for justices of the United States Supreme Court. They would rotate on for 18 years and they would rotate off after 18 years of service. And once we get to the point where we have no judges who have served longer than 18 years, that would be at the point where every 2 years a judgeship or a justiceship on the Supreme Court would turn over. And that way you would give each presidential term 2 appointments to the United States Supreme Court. And we would infuse the court with a little modernity, a little fresh air, and a little more accountability to the American people. Right now, with there being no term limits, and with a court that has been packed with right-wing extremist judges, it's clear that there is no accountability. These justices can do whatever they want. They can impose their draconian views on everyone else. We don't vote for them. We can't vote them out of office. The only way we can get them out of office is to impeach them. And we've seen how difficult that is to impeach, convict, and remove. So in order to bring the court up to modern standards and to protect it from itself, because at this point, it has delegitimized itself with its rulings, with its right-wing extremist rulings over the past few years, particularly over the last term of the court. We're trying to save the court from itself and restore the ability of the people to have confidence and trust in the rule of law as established by the United States Supreme Court.
Okay, so as you laid out, once you're fully through to this system being how everyone got on the court, you'd have some predictability, regularity. Every term, you'd get 2 changes to the court. So until we get to then, what would happen to the current sitting justices?
Well, when they reached, or once the legislation becomes effective, once it's passed by the House and Senate and signed by the president, then any justice who has served in excess of 18 years would automatically be out sitting on the Supreme Court as an active justice. They would go on senior status and they would be available to fill in for a justice in case there was a vacancy on any particular decision due to recusal or some other cause of there being less than 9 justices to decide a case. And a new justice would be appointed to replace the justice who would have been timed out by this legislation. So there would be no retroactivity under this legislation. And we would begin the process of replacing justices with a new justice, and that new justice would have an 18-year term until they termed out.
Okay, I want to get your opinion about some of the criticisms that I've heard or that we can reasonably predict for this. So President Biden had a panel that looked into, relatively early on in his presidency, possible reforms. And they seemed open to several of them. They did say, though, having it be this regularly scheduled thing that happens every 2 years, they worry that that could lead to positions on the Supreme Court becoming an even bigger concern during elections. That doesn't really seem, I think, reasonable to me, but I'm curious what you think about how this changeover would affect the way people see the Supreme Court when it comes to their vote.
Well, the barn door has already been opened on that, and all of the animals have escaped the barn. So you can't close the barn door and stop the harm that has been caused already. Unfortunately, as you pointed out at the top of your segment, the politicization of the Supreme Court is nothing new. It has commenced in full throttle in recent years with how the game of appointment is being played, appointments and confirmations. And we've even seen the outsourcing of the last 3 justices to the Federalist Society, a private political group that has been influencing politics in America. That is their stated intent. And they have been given the role of approving or recommending justices to the United States Supreme Court, as they have done with lower court judges for decades now. And so that process has been totally politicized before it even gets to the Senate, which then has a process that is political, where the potential justice comes and sits down and looks everybody in the eye and says, "I believe in precedent," and and then once seated, proceeds to do what they have been trained to do and what they were put on the court to do by the interests that put them on the court. And then the senators, even Mitch McConnell deciding that I'm not going to even have a confirmation process for a particular justice because it's the last year of the Obama administration and we're in an election year. And so as a matter of policy, we have a new one, and that is we're not going to consider any appointments of justices to the highest court of the land during an election year. And then in the very next election, flips that rule on its head, and within days of the election, ushers through the appointment of the Honorable Amy Coney Barrett as a justice on the United States Supreme Court. After which he invites her to his to the Mitch McConnell whatever it was. They had some kind of event, political event in Kentucky, at a place that's named for him. And here is the Honorable Amy Coney Barrett announcing to the public that it's a lie that Supreme Court justices are acting in a political manner. So, politics has infected this court to the point where those who have been infected don't even realize that they've been infected. So we've got to do something about this, and that's what the Term Act will do.
Okay. Yeah, the current system influences in a political direction so many different things, up to and including the why you would choose one justice over another. The fact that they serve lifetime terms incentivizes choosing someone that's as young as possible. But obviously, if you want to have someone with a lot of experience and wisdom and experience, that should influence you in the opposite direction. But clearly, it doesn't. I want to jump to the path to getting it potentially passed, because I think it probably goes without saying that many Republicans will not be a fan of this. Although it is difficult to imagine what about the proposed system that you're talking about has any sort of political bias whatsoever, unless it's biased towards advantaging a party that can win presidential elections. I suppose the Republicans might be a bit sensitive about that, considering their difficulty getting a majority of the country to support them. But how are you going to get this through in the House, in the Senate? How does this become law?
Yeah, I think Democrats by and large are not in favor of politicizing the court any more than it has been politicized. And we respect the rule of law, we respect judicial independence, and we respect the ability of and the need for the judiciary to be a co-equal branch of government, rather than one that is subservient to either the executive or legislative branch or both. And so let's start out with that premise. We want to fix the court, we want to unpack the court. And this is what Republicans have done to our courts. And it's something that we need to correct. And yeah, you're right. Republicans have the court exactly where they want it. And they're not going to be favorable of change. And in fact, Republicans who used to call themselves the conservative party, I mean, conservatism means that we don't want to change anything. We want everything to remain exactly as it is. And in fact, that's what their Supreme Court does, is takes it all the way back to the minds of the framers of the Constitution, and they try to interpret the Constitution in accordance with whatever those framers of the Constitution, however lacking in diversity they were, notwithstanding the lack of diversity, but they try to get into the heads of what were they thinking and then rule accordingly. Our friends in the legislative branch on the Republican side would like for everything to be as it was, but unfortunately, everybody didn't have rights back then, and they still don't want us to have rights. That's why they are attacking our fundamental right to vote, in addition to taking away women's reproductive freedom, and they have on the agenda the rights of others as well that they want to clip or terminate. And so that is what Republicans do. I'm not expecting any support from them. What we must do is elect more Democrats, and even some of the Democrats have to be educated about the excesses of the court and why we need to change. But I'm looking forward to having those discussions.
I am as well. I mean, the main components of your bill, it's been my preferred path to Supreme Court reform. It seems the most equitable, fair, lets people, sort of predict how the court is going to change over time. I think what we need is less chaos in politics, and I think that it would produce it. So, I very much like the direction that you're going in there, and I obviously wish you and co-sponsors and all that the best of luck in getting it passed. Representative Hank Johnson, I want to thank you again for joining us and breaking down the bill.
Thank you very much for having me.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.